Oh my gosh. I need to be looking you in the eye for this part because I mean it, and I need you to know that there's nothing I'd rather do in life now than talk about Jessie. I don't have her anymore. I just have her story and her message. And when people like you give me and her a platform, that's very meaningful for me. And I thank you for being on your show.
I want you to know this is going to be the hardest show I ever did. And
let's have it not be.
Well, you're going to have to pull me through that one, all right? It's up to you to do that.
Already crying.
Yeah, I have two women in here crying right now. So
sorry, guys. I seem to have that effect on people.
All right.
They're tears of joy too.
Let me kick it off with the best I can with the Unstoppables. So are we ready to go?
You're listening to The Unstoppables, where each week we show you how to overcome obstacles and transform the sting of failure into the reward of growth. And now, here's your host, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and CEO, Bill Wooditch.
You're watching that show, the show that brings you from that place where you think, I can't get out. What do I have to do to get out? Who can I follow? Well, this is the place where you find those people that you can follow through adversity, through things that have happened in life, not just business, because as you know, as a frequent viewer of this show, life and business are one and the same. This is life. And we're going to go to a place today that is going to bring life forward. It's going to bring us to a place of tragedy. It's going to bring us to a place of triumph. It's going to bring us to a place of understanding the heart. But first, we must understand the darkness that lives in the heart before we can understand and appreciate the light. My guest today is Dr. Buck Blogett. He's the author of A Message from Jessie and the founder of the Love is Greater Than Hate project. He and his wife, Joy, were the parents of Jessie, who was murdered when she was 19. Since her death, Dr. Blodgett has worked to end violence and to educate, motivate, and inspire young minds to choose love over hate. He speaks nationally in schools, conferences, and prisons. He uses the story of Jessie's murder to educate, inspire, and motivate people to be resilient, end violence, and choose love. Dr. Blodgett, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be on your show. Thanks for having me, Bill.
You know, I got to turn into a segue for a moment because your story is so devastatingly profound to me personally and to the people in this room. I have two assistants who are in tears. But I got to say something to start out with a little bit of levity here, all right? We have a connection. You grew up in Wisconsin. You played football in the snow as a kid, right? Listened to Wisconsin football, and I played football in the snow in Pennsylvania. So we have that connection that we were kids once, and I think both of us try to maintain that vitality and exuberance for life and try to bring that game of life forward for us. But your story is one that is not games. It is one that is not about, hey, how do I become resilient in business? This is how you've been able to be resilient in life and take something that was so terrible and turn it into something that can affect and does affect the hearts and minds of millions. So let's go back and tell me about your story.
Ooh, should I start with the what happened?
I think so.
Trigger warning for our listeners today. It is dark, it is graphic, it's bad, but it's also full of hope and purpose and forgiveness and love and resilience when life punches you in the stomach. And I think that applies across the board because none of us are getting through this life without getting punched in the stomach big a few times at least. And the ability to bounce back is everything. So what happened? July 15th, 2013. It was a Monday morning. My wife, Joy, had just left for work. I had just gone to work. 19-year-old daughter, Jess, our only child, home alone, sleeping peacefully in her own bed. A friend of Jessie's, who knew our schedules and knew Jess would be sleeping in because she was the fiddler and the Fiddler on the Roof by the Hartford Players, her first community theater out of high school. She won the title role, and they performed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and had a late night cast party, as is the tradition. And Jess was sleeping in, and Dan knew she would be, and he came in our home. He's welcome in our home. He comes in, goes upstairs, and not a crime of passion, but a planned execution. He hog-ties Jessie, stuffs a gag ball in her mouth, tape around her face and head to hold it, and he rapes Jess. And then he reaches for his backpack. DA called it his murder kit, pulls out a rope, follows his instructional video, a snuff film he watched before he came over. And he put the rope around Jessie's neck, and he pulled with all his strength, held it for at least 45 seconds after she lost consciousness, because he knew that's what it takes. And he watched the life and the light drain out of Jessie's eyes. So that's what happened. That's the event that started Jessie's legacy project, which is called the Love is Greater Than Hate Project. And that's what I'm really here to talk with you about today. But nothing's off limits.
Where did you begin to try to put what you could together?
I think immediately, looking back, I just had I don't want to, I want to respect your show and our environment. Don't ever want to preach. I was an atheist at the time. I'm not anymore. I had this overwhelming sense immediately that descended on me that there was only one way to react. And that something, we've all had hard times in life, but I'd never been hit by anything remotely close to that level of just pure darkness and evil. And I felt like I owed it to Jessie, and I owed it to everyone. I just was compelled to answer the violence with peace. I think humans, we have to get a lot better at answering and reacting to darkness with light, and reacting to hate with love. Our technology is exploding, and our value system or spirituality better keep pace. So I just had that sense immediately, but I didn't really distinguish it, but I saw the community's response to Joy and I being kind and loving and forgiving. And then after a little time, I realized I had a new job, and I was supposed to model forgiveness and resilience.
Well, that brings an entirely new definition to the word we use on the show, probably in every episode, and that's resilient. And you have found light, or light has found you, and it's opened that darkness, and it became your goal and purpose to share the message. So how did you begin to create that platform, Love is Greater Than Hate? What's the first thing you did? Where you had that compelling purpose from a spiritual level. What did you do next?
The first thing that happened was the next morning I had a weird event with a butterfly at the bottom of my driveway. And so I started talking about it. I couldn't help myself. And it kind of morphed or evolved into a larger story, and more things happened, and I shared those too. And I just had a story in me, Bill, that I think most people, like my wife, Joy, is a little more normal about responding to that level of violence. She likes to be inward and reflective. I had to talk about it. So at some point, I wrote a book because it just came out of me. And at another point, I developed a PowerPoint presentation with a lot of slides and music of Jessie and male and female violence and inspirational quotes, trying to put something together to turn the darkness into light.
I got to drop back on something for a moment. What did you find significant about the butterfly?
To tell the story right takes 10 minutes. We probably don't have that. What I found significant was that it flew like I'd never seen one fly before. And it flew back and forth in front of me while I'm huddled up with Joy and a neighbor at the bottom of our driveway. And we're all bawling and telling Peggy what happened the day before. And the butterfly was behind them. It came right in front of me. And it was just about to disappear from my field of vision. And it turned around and came back. and it flew in the slowest, straightest line. You know, they usually kind of bounce in the breeze. This one was just like, it just something about it grabbed my attention. Anybody could just, you know, call that, you know, it's just something that it's just a butterfly. But in the way it grabbed my attention, and then the things that followed over the year after Jessie's murder made me change my worldview and realize I'd been missing something for 53 years.
A Message from Jessie is the title of the book. Where do we find that book?
It's on Amazon.com.
Amazon.com. It's A Message from Jessie. Where else can we find you?
You can find us on Facebook, where the love is all capitals, greater than symbol, hate is all smalls, as it should be. The Love is Greater Than Hate Project on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, same name. And we have a website, loveisgreaterthanhate.com or ligth.org.
When you speak to schools, which is what you do now, you speak to in conferences, you actually speak to prisons.
Yes.
What do you find? And I want to ask this both from a spiritual level, maybe a field that you have emotionally. What do you find the reaction of the audience to be when you tell your story overall?
I've done about 110 now, and I don't aspire to be a professional speaker. I don't consider myself one. I'm always blown away and what that tells me is not that I'm an amazing speaker, because I'm not, because I wasn't in demand for 53 years until this happened. What it tells me is that we have an amazing story of resilience and forgiveness and violence and darkness and answering it in a certain way. And this story resonates with, you know, it's not 1 in a million. If Jess was 1 in a million, I wouldn't be on your show today. It's 1 out of 3 of our girls and women will be sexually assaulted in some way, shape, or form in their life. 1 out of 4 domestic violence. 1 out of 6 of our boys sexual assault. 1 out of 7 of our boys domestic violence. 10 girls killed by a man 10 more Jessies every day in my country, in your country. So the issue resonates profoundly with many, many people, and the forgiveness part of it especially.
What is the real man pledge?
I promise to never, ever hit, hurt, or otherwise harm a woman, girl, or child. I understand I'm bigger and stronger than many women, girls, and children, and therefore it's my duty to never hurt them, but to always protect, respect, honor, and love them no matter what. And we do that in prisons and schools.
That's great.
And they don't have to. It's an invite. It's an invite to follow, and then take it if you mean it in your own safe space later. Never want to coerce anybody.
You need to get an audience with the NFL.
I would love an audience with the NFL.
They need you. So that's where I'm going with that. We'll just let that lie. What is something we can do right now, all of us, to make a difference? Now, we have the pledge. We have to live the spirit of the pledge every day. But what can we do to make a difference? Well,
I believe this project is for everyone, and not to be genderist, but I believe everyone, especially includes men, and especially men leaders, and especially men leaders who've never done anything wrong. Never, we're not just after perpetrators. We're not just after those who need to change, so to speak. This project is for everyone. We're out for culture transformation and the end of violence against our girls and women. And I'm not crazy, and we can do that. We haven't done it yet. Doesn't mean we can't. What can men do? Just as a simple starting point, men can not accept things that they know in their heart aren't right, but they stay quiet about because right now, culturally, it's not cool, or it's risky in the locker room or at the Packer game or the wherever. In Wisconsin, it's the deer cabin up in the woods where a bunch of guys get together, and you know the way we talk sometimes. And so men can say something like, here's a useful tool, something like, dude, it's 2019 now. We don't do that anymore. We don't say that anymore. And I like the we in that because it doesn't call anybody out too bad. It makes everybody know, hey, we're a tribe, we're a team, but we don't, this team doesn't do that anymore. We need you.
How would you, one of the questions we ask on the show and people in business, and it really is a life question as much as anything else, but how would you define or really imagine and visualize success for this project? What does that look like to you?
It looks like the accomplishment of our mission, which I'm open to it happening within my lifetime, but I think we're going to need to create an organization that outlives me because of what we're up against and the size of it. You know, the women's suffrage movement took about 50 years, and the persecution they went through, unbelievable. Same with ending slavery, ending apartheid, turning feudal kingdoms and dictatorships into democracies. It always takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for a long time. So this probably will. I think that ending violence is going to be the biggest human accomplishment ever. What does it look like? It looks like the end of, it looks like our vision is zero tolerance for interpersonal violence by the end of the century. Interpersonal violence being domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, bullying, and dating violence. I don't think when you got 7 billion people on the planet, it's realistic to think that not one will ever happen. But, you know, global agreement and intolerance, unacceptance of interpersonal violence.
What would you,
tolerance.
what would you speak to the person who is going through a loss, of any kind of loss that they think is a heartbreak, and they're grieving, and they're trying to get through this loss, and they're having the toughest of times? What would you say to that person one-on-one? What would your counsel be?
First of all, I'd like to say to everybody that we never know what people are carrying around and the losses that people are carrying when we're with them right now, and they usually don't tell us. We usually talk on a more surface level, and people are carrying a lot of things. And so it'd be nice to develop a little more understanding and compassion for that. What I would tell people who experience a massive trauma, a big loss, a heartbreaking thing that they don't think they can overcome is, you know, hang in there. This isn't the end of the story. This is whatever chapter it is, but it's only partway through the story. And there's blessings in every tragedy. And, you know, I've had broken bones and broken dreams and broken relationships and a broken heart, just like everybody in this life. And every one of them, looking back now, I didn't know this for 53 years, but looking back now, every one of them has made me who I am. And I'm really proud of who I am. And I really love who I am now. And I have a deep joy and a deep peace. I also have pain that will, you know, the broken heart. Time heals all wounds. No, it doesn't. But love, I believe, does. And so I would just say to people, hang in there. Let love in, let the light in. Love came out of the woodwork for me and Joy. I'd never seen anything like it. It changed me forever. And now I just live to share that with others. So I would say open your heart, open your mind, open your will, and keep your eyes open too.
I want to go back and emphasize that time doesn't heal all wounds. Love does. Correct? Did I paraphrase that inaccurately?
You said it exactly how I did. Just my opinion. I don't pretend to know any more than anybody else, but for me, that's very, very true. And I know it is for others who've lost children.
You know, I think knowledge is just all relative certitude. It's just a matter of how certain we are about certain things we really don't know. And I think it's part of my philosophical background. I was in a college play once, and I had to use that line, that time heals all wounds. I thought at the time, yeah, it probably does, but I think yours is much better. So I'm going to start using that one. So that's a write down for me on this. Where did you find support initially? Obviously, your wife, you had a spiritual awakening, let's say. But where else did you find support? Was it the community? You know, where was the reach out? National? Where did you find it?
It was all the above. It started on the couch between detective interviews the day when I got the phone call and drove home from work, and Joy looked at me and said, honey, marriages break up over stuff like this. And we didn't know it at the time. I don't know how. She's real intuitive. She must have known it. 79% of marriages don't survive the loss of a child, 4 out of 5. So she said, we got to stick together. And we both kind of sensed that she just spoke truth, and we vowed to, and we have ever since. So I think we're each other's big support. The community was ridiculous. I wasn't really invested in my community, Bill, and at the time. And man, I missed the heart of Hartford, Wisconsin, the little town we lived in. and 14,000 people, and they just poured their hearts out to us. It was overwhelming, the love, and it goes on till today. It's 6 years later. So and we got over 1,000 letters in the mail, and some came from other states and some came from other countries. We got a prayer shawl in the mail. A lady in Pennsylvania knit a prayer shawl and said a prayer on every stitch. And, I don't know who she is, and she doesn't, we've had no contact since, but there's been just endless, ridiculous outpouring of love. And real early on, I asked myself, why don't we do this for each other every day? Why just me and Joy? Everyone suffers tragedy and trauma in their life. We all practice at things, whether it's an instrument or a sport or whatever. Why don't we practice at this unconditional love thing every day?
There's a part of the story we're missing, and that part was this person was caught. I think it's important to know how he was apprehended and now what's happening to him at this point.
He's in jail for life, no chance of parole. He was caught because Melissa, who he attacked 3 days before he killed Jessie in a park in the small town he lives in near our town, survived that attack miraculously. 210-pound man, 110-pound girl, big kitchen knife. He tackled her from behind. She fought him off, described him and his vehicle to police. They tracked him down 4 days later, 1 day too late for Jessie. And there was all kinds of evidence, a mountain of DNA and things that they found. So that's how they tracked him down. He is not in, Dan is forgiven, but he hasn't received it yet because he's still pretending. He appealed the case for 5 years all the way to the United States Supreme Court, even though there's a mountain of physical and DNA evidence. Trying to get off on a Miranda technicality, wasn't successful. So that's where he is. My door is always open to him. If I can ever participate in any human's genuine transformation, I'm in. I don't want your listeners to think I'm nuts and living on a cloud. So I also want to say I'll never excuse what Dan did to Jessie, and I'll never excuse any human on human violence unless it's self-defense. But that's different. Forgiveness and love are from a higher place.
Speaking of human, base instinct. And I try to use empathy wherever I can. I can't be in your shoes, but I can feel it just as to my limits of what empathy is. Do you ever feel a burning freaking anger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had fantasies of laying in the bushes with a baseball bat, waiting for him to come home in the dark. Honestly, I had to wrestle with anger very, very surprisingly little for about a year because of the spiritual things that were happening to me at the same time. It's ridiculous and unexplainable. In the following years, I started to, as we'd get a surprise letter in the mail saying he was appealing to the, appellate court and the state Supreme Court, and I'd come home and Joy cried every day, literally, no exaggeration, many times a day, most days, for well over a year. But the tears kind of dried up in the second, third, fourth year. I'd come home from work and she'd be bawling again, inconsolable. Nothing helped, hugging, holding, listen, nothing helped. And I'd say, what happened? And she'd pull out a letter we just got in the mail because he's still pretending and won't own what he did and be accountable for it. But that doesn't mean I can't love and forgive. Never excuse. Everyone should have consequences, me included. He's not safe to be with us, so he shouldn't be with us. But doesn't mean I can't love and forgive.
It's powerful. What is next for you? What's next on your schedule? And like some guests, you don't have to tell me the actual location. So what's next on your agenda? What are you raising that bar to?
Well, I got to get out of here and go do a presentation of a message from Jessie in an hour, about 10 minutes from here. I used to have, my mantra used to be, if it is to be, it's up to me. And everything shifted for me when Jessie was killed. And what it's now become is say yes to everything in life. And doors are having I'm finding that when I have a clarity of mission and it's in perfect alignment with what I consider to be my higher power and it's what I am supposed to be doing. It's ridiculous how easy doors open and how often they open and how many I used to miss and not even see because I didn't have the eyes to see them. So I'm just, I don't know what's next. All I know is that whatever doors open, I will go through them and we'll see what happens. We do some of the particles of what's next is we have a media outreach, and we do a lot of radio and print media and TV and social media, just trying to broadcast Jessie's message and story as far and wide as we can. And that kid, her story has been heard now by many tens of millions on 5 continents. Her and I never had a millionth of that reach and impact and footprint for good in this world prior to this. So in tragedy, there really is blessings. Good can come of things like this.
You know, I want to drop back because there's so much. You're laying out some platinum wisdom that comes from another place, usually outside the reach of the human mind or brain, our need to control, our need to understand, you know, our need for revenge. But you're talking about clarity of mission, and I mentor people on clarity of goal, clarity of mission, purpose, being in alignment with your true purpose and finding that. And when you are there in that place, that things open up for you. And they do. And I'll tell you, one of the ways of alignment is in my book, Always Forward. If it's to be, it's up to me. Okay. I'm a huge believer on personal accountability, responsibility, and I believe in ownership. If it's to be, it's up to me. And I have to do what I can to make this world a better place, one heart, one mind at a time. So we are very much in alignment with that. And when I opened the show, that was the difficult part about opening the show.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for what you do. I have a coach in my life, and he's been invaluable. And you're a coach to so many. I can tell from your social media, and people like you are invaluable in this world.
You know, and I do this thing without agenda and motive. The only agenda and motive I have is this: is take whatever you find to be of value, throw out what you don't. You know, check it if you wish to. But what resonates, do something and make a difference in someone else's life. By doing so, you'll make a difference in yours. And that's my really founding belief in everything I do. I live that walk, and you live yours, definitely, my friend. His name is Dr. Buck Blogett, the author of A Message from Jessie. We can find him on Amazon.com. And one more time, give me that website.
The website is LIGTH. That's short for Love is Greater Than Hate, LIGTH.org.
Man, I just want to hug you. You were fantastic. And I hope to stay in contact with you. I found your story to be one of hope and inspiration, just as we talked off the air that it would be.
Well, I just want to hug you too. Can't do that in the cyber world. I just want you to know that I think you already do, but the thing I said at the beginning of the show and right at the end, I so meant. My coach Alan has opened doors for me that I never would have even seen, and I know you do that for many, many people. I can tell from spending a couple minutes on your social media, and you did it for Jessie, and you did it for me. Just can't thank you enough. It was a pleasure being with you for a half hour today.
It was an honor. Thank you.